So just everybody that's here in Discord, just get in and join the stream that I have on here so you can see the screen. I'm going to be using a streamer. He's one of the he's in the Onslaught, which is one of the top NA guilds, but he did a lot of private retail private servers. So this is the closest iteration to Naxx without actually doing current classic Naxx. All the mobs and everything are exactly the same. Their spots are the same. The mechanics are the same. The only difference is that some of the stuff in Naxx and for most private servers was a bit extra tuned, extra a little bit extra health, extra damage, or in the case of for this server, they actually banned world buffs. So when you zoned in the raids, you weren't allowed to have world buffs. If you had any of them on, they would just instantly be dispelled. So for these guys, they're doing everything with consumables and just skill. But it's going to be the best representation of for us to see. And obviously, I can pause it and point some things out for you as we go through the different sections, which makes it very helpful and useful. Obviously, this doesn't mean that you can't find videos and guides and everything online. I highly encourage you to do that. Um, get yourself as familiar as possible with the stuff because where nothing in Naxx is harder than what we've already done in terms of trash or even some of the bosses, the room and margin for error is going to shrink a lot further than we've ever really been comfortable with. Um, I'm sure you've heard us talking about Horseman tonight, Thaddeus, different things like that, the safety dance. All those different things are definitely there. They're all incredibly doable. It's just a matter of focusing in and practicing, and being responsible to yourself. You cannot rely on me or somebody else to call everything out. You need to be cognizant of what you are doing in the raid as much as possible. That way, we're not having random deaths. We're not having random issues. We're going to wipe. It's going to happen. That's okay. But we want to try to minimize doing stupid wipes that are easily preventable. So, our first wing we're going to be starting with is going to be the Spiderwing. It's quote unquote definitely the easiest one, and it has some very, very good pieces of loot. Some I can think off the top of my head, casters. Wraithblade drops off of Makesina, the last boss. That's the one-hander sword. It's femur on steroids. She also drops Kiss of the Spider. I mean, that's just insert melee. Everybody wants that. It's a pummeler with a DFT if they had a baby. So pretty good. A lot of good loot in there, but also relatively simple bosses to work through. So I'm gonna kind of play this guy through here. I'm gonna have it muted so we don't need to hear anything. They're gonna be moving at a good pace, so I'll pause it at different times. But for the starting point, when the raid comes in, this is literally the entrance. Like when you zone in the Naxx, you're in like a center area, and then you're just gonna see 4 hallways, and it's like 10 steps, and then boom, you're into the wing. So the raid's gonna sit here in the middle and kind of wait, and we're gonna have Eric's our pulling extraordinaire. He's gonna be doing most of the work for us here and bringing the mobs to the raid from starting here. So the first thing you're going to see, and if you were paying attention, you would have seen them run by in this area. There's a bunch of these things called little skitterers. They're basically AoE cannon fodder. So when they get pulled, there's going to be probably like 10, 15, 20 of these all together. You're going to keep them all grouped up. Tanks, obviously, if you want to throw a challenging shout, that's great. Mages, AoE, Blast Wave, Sappers, Holy Nova, Hellfire, everything like that. Just nuke it all down. They do minimal damage to tanks. Their biggest mechanic that they do is that if they hit you, they have an instant poison, just like rogues do, that can do an extra 400 damage. So, not great if you get hit by it, but if we all are just blowing as much AoE as possible, you'll see here, they just absolutely melt. So, they're not scary at all. So, we'll let them get through this first pull. And you're good. So now what you'll do here too is then the first real pull is going to happen here off to the right. So this is going to be a pack that has a couple different mobs in it. The most notable mob is going to be the Venom Stalker. And I'll pause it real quick so you can see because the Venom Stalker is off screen. As soon as we get visual, you see back here up at the top, see these green legs? And you see how there's a tank right here sitting there kind of line of sighting the raid with the mob, that's the Venom Stalker. So this one would be Cookie taking that one. Cookie, you're basically going to treat this as a Chromag. His signature ability and what makes him so dangerous is he has a thing that is a poison charge. If he has line of sight on anybody in the raid, he will charge that person. He will do damage to them, and he applies a poison dot to every single person, basically within a few yards of that player, that deals 2,500 damage per tick every 3 seconds for 9 seconds. It is dispellable, but that's a shit ton of damage out in the raid. As Horde, it's a little bit easier. We can instantly drop poison cleansing totems, not that big a deal. But to basically cheese the fight, you keep him over there out of the way, and you line of sight it like Chromag where we heal you. Now, the
Got it.
other mobs that are in here are these guys you see here, Dread Creeper, and then the Carrion Spinners. Dread Creepers are a joke. Any warrior that has a shield and a taunt button can hit them, keep them off casters. What they do, and you can actually see it here, is this tank Exception, who's hitting this one, has a Veil of Shadow. It's the same debuff we've seen from Gehenna's, from Nefarian. It reduces healing by 75%. It's a curse. If you're a mage, if you're a druid, instantly decurse that tank. The Carrion Spinners are a little bit scarier. Um, Eric's, this is where I was telling you where lips and or faps are a good idea. And even any tank that's going to go in there or melee, fapping before these pulls is a good idea. Carrion spinners have an ability that is a web wrap. And what they do actually is they yoink you towards them. It's a physical spell. So that's why fapping is or a lip, if you get yoinked, is a good idea because the FAP actually prevents you from doing that. So it'll yoink them towards you and you're slowed. So you can see where I'm going with this. If you get called out by that and they pull you to that group of 6 spiders, you're dead. There's no saving you. So a FAP prevents that from hitting you. A lip saves you from dying if you do get yoinked. They do have a poison spray that hits out in front of them, so you want to turn them away from the raid if possible. Once again, though, obviously, if that gets out into the raid, shamans, you have poison cleansing totems, make sure you're using that to get through them. We'll actually see on the next pull, this one, since they cheese it with the Venom Stalker, you don't see the yeet, but you're actually going to see a tank on the next one get yeeted on the pull and pop a lip in midair. So now here, then the whole raid moves down and tries to zerg the Venom Stalker down before he can get off a charge. So nothing too scary, like I said, but obviously the mechanics you still need to pay attention to. There's some more skitterers that run around. They're little traveling packs. Anytime they're called for, it's basically just big AoE. So watch this troll warrior right here. See, he pops a lip and yoink, there he goes. That is the carrion spinner's ability. I'll put it back so you guys can see it again. So if you have that, and that's either in this case they're using a tank as bait, because when he gets pulled, they're healing him and rolling hots. So when he pops the lip and they yoink him, they don't care about him anymore. They're going for healers. Then you can see the one tank goes in, he hits the Venom Stalker. Everybody else is cleaving down the mobs, doing their best to get those down. And there's the Venom Stalker. See how he flies in? You can see the entire raid right there has a poison on them now. So that's where the damage can get scary. But they have poison cleansing totems from the shamans, so they're basically cleansed off instantly. And everything's dead. Well, Venom Stalker's over there. He charged the other tank. So those are the first two trash packs. And then there's the third pack. It's the same thing. More carrion spinners, more of the dread creepers, and a venom stalker. This one with the doorway now, you can actually cheese the pull doing the chromag again. So this would be one where Eric's can go in. He can send Udge to his death. There's a skirter pack that ran into them, so they're going over there to do AoE. And once again, Cookie, you would use the door line of sight. So you would tank him where he's up against in the hallway over here, and then you're standing right here so that we can line of sight you for heals, but he won't charge the raid. So we'll skip ahead a little bit here since it's the same pack. I don't need to explain it again. So now you get up to the boss, and the first boss here is a Nubricon. He's considered the easiest boss in this entire dungeon. So the first part you'll notice here is that he has two ads and him. So when the pull goes out, you actually are going to the 2 tanks that are assigned to the ads, we're gonna stack them up on top of the boss. There's no reason not to. If the boss is turned away from the raid, then there's no issue from the boss doing any damage on the group, and you're just gonna hit your cleaves. Obviously, range, you can single target hit these spiders. Um, they're not going to be that much of a threat to you. For anybody who's tanking these crypt guards here or is near them, you don't want to stand in front of them if you can avoid. They do have a cleave, and they also too can web people and keep you in place. So you can see there, everyone got webbed. If you have living action potions, that'll pop you out. If you fapped beforehand, if your potion's not on cooldown, that'll obviously prevent it. Um, and then you go from there and you hit them, but don't stand in front of them. Now, here's a difference between private server to classic. On PTR, a Nubricon you saw here a little bit further back. Everybody, I think it was here, might have been a little bit sooner. I'll go back to the poll. You see a bunch of people fly up in the air. So if any of you guys played Frozen Throne back in the day, and you ever played Scourge, and you had this guy as your hero, you know they have that impale ability that you launch out into the group. It's the same thing here. You see them all get hit by and fly up in the air. It does a moderate amount of damage. You don't want to get hit by it if you can avoid it, but it's telegraphed. He turns toward the raid and he throws it out in a straight line. The difference is on PTR, he doesn't throw it into the raid. He throws it at his highest target threat, which would be in this case Cookie as the main tank. So if Cookie faces him away and just turns his butt to the raid, the only person who's ever going to take that is Cookie, which makes it absolutely trivial. Like, absolutely trivial. You basically don't even have to worry about that mechanic as long as you don't rip threat and he throws it back to you. But if you rip threat, we got bigger problems. So when you go to tank him, Cookie, you'll take him right back here where he starts. Keep him over here, face him away. They don't really care about facing him away, obviously, here because of the fact that he throws impales out. And what you have to pay attention to for a Nubricon, his biggest mechanic is Locust Swarm. So you can see here they actually have the countdown on their DBM running. He does it about a minute and 20, minute 30 seconds in. And this is the only thing that makes him difficult. When that happens, he puts out a Locust Swarm and it does a bunch of AoE damage around him for about 30 yards. It silences you, you can't attack, and it deals like 2,500 damage a tick. You do not want to be in it. So the entire range should be all back there where you see the healers, and melee need to get out as soon as that's telegraphed. Now, a Nubricon, when he's going to do it, you're going to see him. See how he squats over like that, and you can see him like kind of put his butt up in the air. That is the signal that he is about to cast Locust Swarm. That is your cue. If you're melee, you got to get out and get out of there. Now, Cookie, you obviously can't get out. You have to stay there. So what do you do as soon as you see him cast that? You're actually going to turn to your left or your right over here if you're facing that way, and you're going to use the outer rim of this room, and you're going to run along it, just not in the goo. There's that little ledge over there. And I sent you some swiftness potions. If you feel like buying some more, do it. They're good to use here. And we'll have Eric's in your group too. As soon as you're out of range, so you're not going to get clipped, Eric's going to pop aspect of the pack and you're going to kite him around the room. He moves 40% slower while he's locust swarming. So it's easy to outrange him. It's just that we got to get you out of that range first. You're going to take him to the entrance of the room and then we go back to attacking him. Now, rest of the raid, while this is all happening, when he does the locust swarm, a crypt guard is spawned. So that has to be picked up by a tank in the group, and you melee him down. When those crypt guards die, that one, they don't see it here. It wasn't on classic. When they die, he actually blows their bodies up, and it makes a bunch of little scarabs. These are cannon fodder. You can group them all up, cleave them all down, AOE them all down. If any person of the raid actually dies, he blows their body up and makes an additional bunch of scarabs. He'll make actually 5 for a person who dies, and he makes 10 from the crypt guard. So once again, not scary. They're very easy to deal with, but if a lot of people start dying, it's very easy to get overwhelmed during that part. Other than that, once he gets back over here, he goes right back to the same mechanic. Turn him away. You're only going to take Impale in the main tank, and everyone blows cooldowns and kills the boss. He's easily the easiest boss in this raid. So we should be able to get him. I'm hoping at least one, if not one, 2 shots. But very straightforward fight. Does anybody have any questions, any comments, any issues so far of what they're seeing?
Question I had was
Yep.
with the guys, the Venom Stalkers, can you surround them like the Surgers and avoid the charge, or does it still do the effect?
It's going to do the effect no matter what. So it doesn't matter if you're giving him a hug or not. It's just everybody needs to kill him as soon as possible. You want him to have as few charges as possible. But they're going to happen. It's just not all of them can be line of sighted perfectly. Like that one, the second pull, they're out in the middle of the room. There's nowhere to hide with them because if you try to take him in that doorway, you're gonna aggro the group to your left, and if you try to take him back to the first hallway, he's gonna charge people along the way. So that one you kind of have to just go for. The first two you can kind of cheat with the doorways. But yeah, that's once it's the Venom Stalkers, the last mob that you kill, everyone's just gonna zerg them and try to kill them as quickly as possible. Anybody else? Come on, guys. Someone's got to have some questions out there.
Hey man, I'm just writing my notes on my sticky note.
Okay.
I mean, that's a pretty straightforward one.
Okay. Fair
From
enough.
what I remember, the hardest part was the tank moving fast enough because
Okay.
the locust swarm, like, it's a quick warning. As you can see in that video, it's like butt up, it's happening like a second later, and if you're still in melee range, you get deleted.
Yeah, as a tank, that was always it. It was always just the tank that ended up dying to stupid shit on that.
Is Locust Swarm damage physical or no?
Nature.
Nature.
Most stuff in here is kind of a nature or shadow damage more often than not. So once
Or
again,
fire.
or fire. So once again, another pass skitters or just blow them all up. So the next pull here is a little bit different. There's a room. These guys are going to clear the right side and then walk along it. There's identical mobs on the left side of this room. The only thing that's different about this group here compared to the groups we've seen before is that there's 5 spinners. So those are the yeet ones. And then this giant new guy, the Crypt Reaver. So as you can see here, they group all the carrion spinners together and they're just cleaving them all down because them alone are not that scary. It's when they're in those other packs that make them weird. And then the Crypt Guard is being tanked off to the side. So he'll or Crypt Reaver, he'll be taken last. He actually hits pretty hard on tanks. He can do up to 1 to 1.2k. His biggest mechanic is that he cleaves. So this is the reason why you take him away. He'll cleave anything in front of him up to 3 total targets, and even on plate, he's going to hit that group for about 1.2 to 1.6k. So if you're ranged and you're near this, get the hell away. You're going to get deleted because that's how much it does on a plate wear. The other thing that he does is he's going to randomly pick a person in the raid that's in range and put a virulent poison dot on them. It does 200 damage per tick. It's nothing too crazy. It can be dispelled and it can actually be hit by grounding totems. So if shamans can be cheeky and try to twist a Wind Fury and grounding totem in there, that'd be a good way to dodge that. But once again, not bad. It's split them up, kill them. The other thing too is if you guys for Spiderwing, I've been trying to tell everyone to farm up holy waters, and when the Naxx event drops, try to get consecrated sharpening stones. Almost everything in this wing is not undead; they're beasts, so these will not apply here. So like when those skitterers run by, you cannot throw holy water; that will not hurt them. And consecrated sharpening stones will not help your offhands here. Most of the stuff in here is a beast, so do not waste them on Spiderwing. So then they have another pull over here that the hunter's going to get. And that is the exact same pull that they just saw. So it's another Crypt Reaver and Carrion Spinners. And you can see everyone's just line of sighting everything because they want everything to come to them because of the spinners yoinking people and throwing them all around. You can see they're still throwing people here every time that little purple laser, as it looks like, goes out. That's them just throwing random people around the room. So
Oh, one last thing on a Nubricon. From what I can tell, he has about 1.6 million health.
correct.
And that locust swarm comes out like about 90-ish seconds into the fight. So you can theoretically, I mean, most of the hardcore sweaty guilds aren't even going to get a locust swarm. Like if you can do
Correct.
1.6 million damage in 90 seconds, which we might be close on, we might not even have to deal with that.
So the biggest thing with him is his only mechanic is the impale, which he's going to throw only on Cookie. So once you nuke those ads down, you get to the boss. He's basically a target dummy. The best analogy I can think of would be something like Flame Gore or Fireball because they have 999,000, about a million. Same thing with Huhuran. Those guys obviously have other mechanics that can make DPS have to slow, or in Evan Rock, there's the taunt swaps and the wing buffets and whatnot. In this case, it's one person hitting the boss and well, not 39, but 39 other people that don't have to do anything else but either heal or just blow down the boss. So if you can just push as hard as possible, there's no reason not to, because if you can dodge the Locust Swarm, it takes away the entire main mechanic of the fight. You don't have
So
to
I
kite him at
mean,
all.
would I be the best pick to tank that then?
If you're going to stay as as a prot, which I think you are, you can still you've proven you can put up a good threat with a shield. I haven't seen that be too much of an issue.
Okay,
Um,
that's fine.
there's no issue there. If we feel as though we want to throw a little caution to the wind on that, throw Bebop in there, tell him to dual wheel tank it. I mean, why not, right? And just treat it like a Veil fight almost.
Well, you'll
Um,
have a
Every,
lot of leeway because all the DPS will be focused on the 2 ads before we focus on the boss.
Oh,
Which is why,
yeah,
like I was saying, you stack the boss with the ads to start and then drag him away as the ads die. The only thing
got
Cookie
it.
has to do is turn him away so he's not impaling the raid. Once the ads are down, that allows warriors to throw in cleaves, and for mages to get in there, throw down blast waves, throw down arcane explosions, really go ham, put as much cleave damage on, and then you take the boss away. The boss only needs to be moved to the back technically before Locust Swarm, because you want him, Cookie, or Bebop, whoever it is, to be back there so you can use that sewer to run around the kite, right? If he's in the middle of the room, everyone's screwed. But if he's back there, he'll just follow the perimeter of the room. Other than that, it doesn't matter where you tank him, right? You can tank him anywhere you want in the room. You just need to give yourself the maximum circumference to run him around during Locust Swarm. All right, so they just cleared those packs. Once again, like I said, that was the Crypt Reaver plus the Carrion guys. All right, so these guys here that they just pulled from the hunter are called Necro Stalkers. These are identical in everything but name to the Venom Stalkers from the beginning. I have no idea why they named them that. It's the same exact thing. They poison charge the raid. They hit kind of hard, but there's nowhere else to put them. They're a pat. So when you pull them, you just bring them together. And once again, from my boy Ice Shard, take them to Cleveland. Everyone mash their cleave buttons, mash their whirlwinds, blast wave, arcane explosion, do your thing. So they're going down this hallway, more skitters. And there's actually a couple more of those Necro Stalkers. So that you'll see them come in here. They pat around here and they have a very, very long pat range. They actually pat all the way from that room that they were pulling the Crypt Reaver in, all the way down to Faralina. So it's kind of one of those things where you have to be careful in where they are. You don't accidentally pull something and then, get into them. You can see here's another two coming at them. And good thing we have Eric's pulling extraordinaire. Trust that man with my life.
Shout out.
Look, taunt resisted.
More skitters.
I see Warlock Hellfire.
I mean, I told you they're AoE cannon fodder. So this is the time where if you're someone who has, professions that you're not using and whatnot, engineering is absolutely the way to go. You just cannot understate how much extra damage sappers can provide, even on boss fights when you have a 5-minute cooldown between and everyone pops a sapper and just puts out an extra, I don't know, 500 on 40 people. I mean, that's 2,000 damage right there. I mean, it adds up. I'm sorry, 20,000 damage. It adds up quick. All right, so this is the next pull here. This is in the Faralina's room. These are humanoids. So there are actually a bunch of these guys just kind of like chilling out here, kneeling, praying, and simping for Faralina. So they come in groups, and the groups here are going to be Naxxramas cultists and Naxxramas acolytes, and there'll be 4 and 4 in every pool. So when you pull them, they'll come in groups, little off their pews. So it's a 4 and 4, and they each have their own different abilities. The cultists will do a shadow burst. It's a AoE knockback that hits everyone around them in range for about 3 to 500 shadow damage, and it wipes all threat. They'll cast this about once every 2 to 3 seconds. Basically, if you're melee and you're tanking these or just melee in there hitting them, you need to treat these like the guardians in AQ. You need to put your back up against the wall so that you fall right back down and you can start hitting them again. The second one are the alkaloids. The alkaloids will do a shadow bolt volley. Anybody within 30 yards will be hit by this in the range. So you can outrange it, but unlike the Anubis ass, you can't unrange it by stacking on top of them. It's going to cast. That's obviously a shit ton of damage. These can be interrupted via pummels, kicks, counterspells. The other one that will be there is their Arcane Explosion. Just like mages, these will go out. They hit for about 600 damage. That also can be interrupted. If you are following along here, which one of these do you think is the most dangerous one that needs to be killed first? Bueller?
Shadow Bolt people.
Lights.
Alkaloids. Yes, LFB gets the gold star. Alkaloids
Damn.
need to die first, and we need to have anyone with interrupts on those. It's probably even a good idea, Dist and Bebop, to assign interrupt assignments between warriors, rogues, mages, and to call that out. We basically don't want to ever let them get one of those abilities off if possible, because the amount of raid damage that's going to start going out there is pretty high. Now, the plus side is these guys are casters, so they do melt overall in terms of they don't have a lot of health, they don't have a lot of armor. They will drop, but you can see here there are shadow bolts going out. There's bouncing around from the shadow shock, and you can see the raid bars. Their people are, they're getting a little bit low at times. So healers, we obviously need to be extremely mindful of that, and making sure that we're keeping everyone as much as possible topped off. So they're
Question.
not scary, but we definitely absolutely need to be killing those alkaloids as soon as possible and making sure we interrupt them as much as possible. If Jake gets the most interrupts with Earth Shocks, like he did that one week on Scarum, I'm benching everybody.
Bench.
I got a question. They're
Yeah.
humanoids. Are they stunnable or CCable or no?
To be honest with you, that I don't know. I'd have to go look it up. I don't know if they're stunnable. However, like I said, I know they're susceptible to interrupts. I didn't see anybody on these polls. Actually, let's just go back and watch. Let's see if we see anybody get stun locked at all as they pull these. See if any rogues are popping kidney shots, or if a warrior's throwing out an intercept. If we see the little stun icon pop up. As you can see here, they actually use a mage to pull the one guy, and they just absolutely blow that acolyte up before he even gets there. I mean, that might be something we need to do too. Nope, he just intercepted that guy, the acolyte, and he didn't stop moving. So they are not stunnable based on this. But anyway, they do melt, but everyone does need to be mindful, especially of the alkaloids, to make sure that they're getting those interrupts off. And you can actually see after this one, they pull the second group. That one got a bit scuffed. Look at the health bars right here. They actually lose a couple of people. He's cringing. This is where it's getting a little bit rough, where a lot of damage is going out. So they do a couple pulls of these. I think there's 4 groups. There's 2 and 2, and then there's 2 and 2 on the other side. All of these have to be killed. I'm sorry, 3 on the other side. They all have to be killed. You cannot skip any of these, even the one here in the back. They will social aggro on Faralina when you go to pull her if you try to skip them, which is obviously an absolute terrible idea. So we'll skip through these guys and we'll get to Faralina. There's a bunch of people dead because Shadow Bolt volleys and Arcane Explosions are getting thrown off. Okay, so this is then Faralina. She's up here on her stage, and she has a handful of ads that stand with her. So, if you are feeling worried, she does fire damage and she does nature damage. So if you want to pre-pop a greater fire protection potion or a greater nature protection potion, this is the time. The fire is because she casts Rain of Fire, just like the ones cast by Gehennis, by the Spellbinders, all of that. Don't stand in bad. The poison is she will actually do a poison bolt volley that is exactly the same as Vasidius's, where it'll hit every player that's in rain in the raid right there when she is enraged. So I'll get to the enraged in a second, but that is not all the time. She's not always enraged. So of her group up there, she's going to have 4 worshippers and 2 followers. All of those ads are tauntable. We need to kill the followers, but we do not in any circumstance harm the worshippers. What will happen is if you are a off tank in this, and hunters, you can obviously help. You're going to pull these guys off to the side while we kill the followers. Followers aren't scary. Stack them up, cleave them down. They do hit a little bit hard into the thousands, like 1500. They can sometimes do a random charge, just like how Vem does, right? Where he picks somebody, he runs at you and kicks you against the wall. It doesn't do anything, just a little bit of damage. And then the other thing that they are that's a little bit scary is that they can cast a AoE silence, like the gargoyles and banshees do in in Stratholme. So if you're tanking these, take them away from the casters. So a good idea would be is like on the pull, you would take the followers like over here to the left, and then the worshippers to the right. Main tank goes to Fairlina on the pull. So the reason why we cannot hurt the worshippers, and by the way, if you're a tank that's assigned to these, do not in any way, and this is good practice because they'll be the same thing for Instructor Vesuvius, don't do anything to the worshippers other than just hit them and make them want to stay on you. You don't need to do any type of crazy debuffs or damage to them. The reason we use these is because me and another priest will actually be doing a mind control on them. And then when Fairlina is about to enrage, or when she is enraged, she does 75% increased attack speed, increases her physical damage done by 150%, and she starts throwing out the poison bolt volley. That is very scary. And she'll start to do that in the first minute, and then it'll be 30 seconds after that when you get rid of it. So hunters can't trank this. What we do is we mind control a worshiper. You walk the worshiper up to the boss, you target the boss, and then on their pet bar, they have an ability called Sacrifice. When they sacrifice, they die, they silence Fairlina, and they remove her enrage. Once you use one, it goes on a 30-second cooldown before she'll enrage again. So, if you're doing this and you're keeping track, she'll do it in the first minute, and then you have 4 followers. So you have to kill Fairlina within 4 minutes. That's her soft enrage. However, as this guy skill does, because she doesn't have a lot of health, and that's her only main mechanic, she has 1.3, they actually mind control a guy off the start and pop the first sacrifice, and that keeps her silenced for 30 seconds, which then only gives you a 2-minute window, but immediately removes the worry of waiting and mind controlling later. Because obviously the worry is if a mind control resists or breaks early, or you have to get it up there, she might be enraged for a couple seconds and she will slap the shit out of the main tank. And the poison bolt volley goes out and it's a ton of damage. So the argument could be made that if you do it a little bit early, you do lose some time off of her longer initial enrage timer, but you save it by getting it done over time. You just have to overlap a little bit quicker, and your raid DPS has to be on point to make sure that you get through the 2 minutes. We're probably going to be a little bit more of in the middle. We probably won't pop it right away, sacrifice, but we'll probably do a sacrifice early once we kill the followers. So you can see here they go in, they get the followers here at the front, they blow these guys down. The off tanks are picking up the worshippers and they're taking them away from the raid. And there's a rain of fire. Stay out of bed.
I think at that one point there, you misspoke that as far as interrupting the enrage, that when you use the worshiper to interrupt the enrage, it actually puts the enrage on a 60-second timer. Instead of if you use the worshiper on her outside of the enrage, it's only a 30-second timer on her.
Gotcha. Thank you, Bebop. Yeah, that's why either way, the point was that it reduces the time you have to kill her, but it makes it cleaner of not worrying about overlap of the of missing the enrage silence. So if you're doing it outside of her enrage, it's a 30-second cooldown. If you do it inside, it's a minute. So we're going to probably straddle a bit more the difference because 1.3 million health is not scary to me. We are killing people like Ebonrock, Hoo-Hoo, Flamegore well within that margin of time as it translates to her.
Yeah, I would think we would probably be like 2 to 3 minutes would be kind of where we kill her, at least initially.
Yeah. So anyway, you'll see here they go, and in the background you can see all the people are chilling back there, and the tanks are trying to keep the worshippers out because we obviously don't want to kill them. We want to save them for mind controls.
But yeah, I guess that's the thing with the timing on it. Like theoretically, you have like she can do the enrage right off the pole, as far as I can tell. But it seems like she usually waits a little bit before she
Yep.
does it. So you
And
got your 4 worshippers that if you do it like after she enrages each time, basically gives you like 4 minutes and some change, like at most. But we probably will only need 2 to 3 minutes. So that's why we can just blow a sacrifice off the
Yeah.
start and then just use the other ones a little more smartly. But then we don't have to off tank and add, and it just makes things easier.
Yep. So you can see here for them, there's the timer puts up. It's a minute into the fight is her first enrage. So she's not enraged to start. And then as like after they nuke the followers down. The hardest part for this one will be off there is if you're a tank that's trying to get the worshippers. You got to get them out of the pile so that we can kill the follower and move fairly in the position. And then obviously they're going to want to chase after healers and shit like that. So right there you can actually see Star is moving in. That's a worshipper that they've mind controlled and they're sacrificing them to be in here to silence the first and get ready for the first enrage. So as priests, me and whoever else is doing it, we're just gonna have to be very mindful of the timers for this because we're not going to be healing during that. We're going to be mostly watching timers for the mind control. There's Star right there still, and then as they get under 10 seconds, you're going to see them. They're going to sacrifice it right about here. And there you go. So now there's a timer resets for enrage, and now it shows you the silence. So during that time, she's not going to do any of her signature enrage
Yeah, the
abilities.
poison bolt volley thing. That's the other thing with the timer is like regardless if you use the sacrifice inside or outside of the enrage, it only stops the poison bolt volleys for 30 seconds. So you could have like if you're using it to try to get that 60-second window, you're still going to have to deal with some poison bolt volleys in there.
Yep, which is why the argument that most people will make for this is pop the sacrifice early. See right there, she gets enraged at the very end. Luckily, they were in burst range for her, so it didn't matter. But that you'll overlap them a little bit sooner because it's not hard. Once she's silenced like that, the only thing she's going to do is drop the rain of fire on top of the raid, and you just reposition just like you do for Gehenna's. So once again, it's not a scary fight, but it will punish you if you do things wrong. Luckily for this, if anything goes wrong, it's probably going to be me or whichever other priest is there with screwing up the mind controls. So you can just blame me and not anybody else. So does anyone have any specific questions for Fairlina?
So main tank, just tank the boss.
Correct. You go to boss, you hit boss, boss drops rain of fire on you, move boss.
Understood.
And
as far as
if she
off-tanking-
enrages, life giving, last stand, shield block, pray, all of the above, till we get the silence down.
Equipping Stylines, ready to
Equipping
go.
Stylines.
There you go. Yeah,
22.5% chance block. I just checked.
at some point, I mean, I feel like when we haven't really discussed much about crunching the numbers and what our tanks are wearing on any given fight. We're just always like, hey, E-House, can you step up and tank? Just throw whatever you want on. On a lot of these fights, we got to be a little more specific on the kind of gear that we're wearing for tanks. We might have to go over that a little bit more later. But I mean, there are a lot of fights like this where like the off tanks and the worshippers literally just go full like dad guild mode, just stack all the mitigation in the world. There's like not necessarily any reason to
All you
do
do
much of
is
anything.
is you hit taunt and you keep them away from healers and where they're not taking damage where they might die. And everyone else is just zug-zugging the boss and
Yeah.
just trust us priests to do our job.
I mean, the only thing that maybe reconsider a little bit is if you're like on the first worshiper that's going to get sacrificed, so then you could then join and do a little bit of damage. But even that is not going to make or break the fight.
So the
Yeah.
DPS is entirely on that boss, disregarding off tanks that are carrying the other guys, right? You kill the initial guys, and then the DPS just sit on boss with me.
Correct.
We're smacking her for days. You're priesty bringing them in when the sacrifice happens, but other than that, we're just racing to kill her.
Correct.
It's like hoo-hoo
Avoiding
with an
ring of
extra step
avoiding rain of
It's
fire.
yeah,
and
I-
avoiding Rain of Fire.
it's I guess the easiest way to me to think of it is it's harder Gehenna's, right? Where he has two
Mhm.
ads. You zug the ads as soon as possible, cleave them on top of the boss, and then once they're down, everyone's on the boss. And in this case, it's just that there's an extra role of that a few people are corralling the worshippers, and then two priests mind control in to silence her when need be, and that's it. Just stay out of rain of fire and don't die.
Gotcha. Okay,
So
easy fight.
yeah, so the first two are really easy. I mean, this is why Spiderwing is where everyone says if you're starting in Naxx, you go to Spiderwing first because the bosses aren't that hard, and even the trash is like you can see like even if it gets scary, you'll probably like flop your way through it, where it's not like you're
Yeah.
gonna wipe, and you'll as you kill it, you'll get loot and stuff starts dropping and you get better. So this hallway here is now they're going to Mixina. So Spiderwing actually has some of the most trash from boss to boss to boss. Most of the wings, as you kill the first boss, there's a lot of trash on your way to the first boss, and there's less trash between the first and the second, and then sometimes none from second to third, like way less. Spider has ones in there. So this hallway has Dread Creepers. They're those guys from the beginning. They have the Veil of Shadows. Cleave them, dispel the tanks that are hitting them, or whoever they got the dispel on. The new target is the undead spider. That is called a tomb horror. So he's a little bit different from the crypt guards before. He's going to hit kind of hard on tanks, plate wearers. He hits for 1-4 to 1-7. So nothing to scoff at, but nothing crazy. His signature mechanic is a ability called Pointy Spike. It's an extra bonus attack that he does to whoever his threat target is that will add an extra 1.5k. So he can slap when those happen. So healers, you just have to really pocket whoever's on that. So in this case, when we're pulling these, Cookie would take the horror, and Bebop and the boys would take the creepers because you're the most likely to live through that, and we can heal you through that burst. They're moving here further away because they skipped that one pack over there, so they're just kind of moving through the trash. I don't know if we'll be able to do that, but it's the same pack. It's more Dread Creepers and another one of these Tomb Horrors. So you can see the raid is just focusing on getting the horrors down. I'm sorry, the Dread Creepers down. And once those guys are dead, they're going to go over to the horror. So this one got a little scuffed on there. You can see they lost a lot of range, like mages and stuff. These creepers kind of got loose. Their tanks slash warriors with taunts didn't pick them up soon enough. So these outer rings of Naxx are kind of weird. So all the trash in the inner wings is unique to that wing. It's all flavored to that wing. Everything you've seen so far has been a goddamn spider, right? In the outer rings, they actually mix all the trash up. So out here, you can see here what they're pulling. There's the shade in the middle. There's ghouls. These
Are
guys,
undead.
the shade, yeah, these are undead. The shade is actually part of the trash that's in the Death Knight wing, and the ghouls are part of trash that be in the Plague wing. So there's actually gonna be times where you can see this weird overlap of trash that doesn't feel like it belongs, but it's only in these outer wings. Um, this would be relevant to us at the start because the outer wings actually are where you can get extra frozen runes. And we need to try to get as many frozen runes as possible from the start because frozen runes are the main mats to use for the frost resist gear that you make out of Naxx. It's the best frost resist gear in the game, and obviously you need it for Saffron later. So we're not going to try to farm this area because it's extra trash we have to do in time during progression, but we're definitely going to want to get those. And we may even try, if we can't do it all in raid night, have like at least maybe 20 to 30 people go in and try to farm up some of those runes. Once rogues are actually locked, rogues could actually run around and hit these in stealth. And usually there's about one frozen rune in every boss room, but the majority of the runes are actually located around the circles, which is why you might have to go out there and find it. So Shade of Naxxramas, these guys are pretty straightforward. You can see there he's got a little portal that he's summoning in the background. It's a one-person target. Nothing that you have to worry about of them slapping. Let me just pull up his mechanics here real quick, because these guys are, like I said, part of the Death Nightwing. So I have to just go to my Death Nightwing notes. Okay, so shades. They do a Shadow Ball volley. It's a anybody within 30-yard range. It hits for 2k, kind of scary, but they only cast it about once every 10 to 15 seconds, and it can be line of sighted. So in theory, if a tank picks it up and can move it, which you can't really do here because of the bridge, you can line of sight it. But in reality, what you're going to do is just kind of zug it down. Healers just got to heal through it. The portal that he's dropping behind it, these are the same thing that the warlocks in Blackwing Lair do, right? You know, and they summon the Felgarden. It's the same thing, except this summons a spooky ghost of Naxxramas. Those ghosts are, I don't see if one of them gets summoned in here. If you kill the mob before it goes off, it just, up there it is. They summon them out. They're the spooky ghosts from ZG. You know, when you kill the hex priests or whatever they're called, and then we always yell, stay away from ghosts. It's the exact same thing. If you just want to go give the ghost a hug, he's going to do 2,500 shadow damage a tick to you. So don't stand near the ghost. You know, that's all you got to do. They're not scary as a mob unless these start spawning out like crazy while the shade's still up. Because obviously you're trying to move and maybe line of sight the Shadow Bolt volley,
Well,
and then those things are doing AoE damage to you. A little bit scary.
the shade
So
is dead, but the ghosts are still coming.
yeah, because they didn't kill him before the first ghost got out. So
Okay.
if you kill it before he finishes the portal summon, you can skip it.
Okay.
Hey,
But
Shal,
yeah, what's up?
I ain't afraid of no ghosts.
But the thing is that, you know, if they spawn out before he dies, then which is gonna be likely the case. I mean, I think unless you have like absolute like speedrunner zug speed to kill it, it's gonna spawn. Because I think my notes here says it's gonna spawn within like 5 seconds. There's almost no way you're gonna kill that mob before they start spawning. So those guys they just pulled were the plague ghouls. So they are a plague wing guy. Plague wing ghouls are they put out a single target. Hang on, let's pause before it gets going even further. Plague ghouls do a single target Ren debuff on whoever they're hitting. It only ticks for 97 damage, so not that bad. They also put a single target debuff called Flesh Rot. It's a disease, so it can be cleansed. That one's a little bit scarier. It does 500 odd damage to 600 odd damage per tick for every 2 seconds. And then when they hit under 20%, they enrage. That's the scary part. They hit really, really hard. So if you're a tank that's assigned to hit taunt and pick them up, you definitely need to put on more of your mid gear. Just don't let that enrage at the end hit you. And actually, let's see, we'll pull up here as they pull them, see so you can see the enrage. Although I think they get that one pat. So not everything has to get pulled because there's stuff that pats around. So there's 4 of these ghouls. Everyone
Don't they
picks
just
them.
turn red when they enrage?
They do, but I was saying for tanks, like you need to be a little bit beefier because when this guy enrages, he's starting to start slapping. There you go. It's under 25% their enrage. So obviously, if you're melee and you're not tanking, hitting cleave, hitting whirlwind, wearing your BRE, whatever you want to do to cleave them down, range, single target, shoot them down, whatever order you want. But tanks need to stay beefier. This pull they're going to do are the Necro Stalkers, aka Venom Stalkers. I've talked about those. They have the poison charge. It looks like what they're going to try to do here is they're letting the plague ghouls pad around because then they can pull the spiders and the plague ghouls will go around to the right and then they just shoop, skip on by. Um, this is a big dungeon, takes a lot of time, so you don't want to pull extra crap that you don't have to pull if you can avoid it just because it's easier. So you can see there that one charge and like the entire raids bars here light up for the poison. Oh, I skipped it. Whatever. So now they're moving down here. You see here, look. Oh, here's our alkaloid buddies, the ones that were from, the same thing from before with Fairlina. So they have that Shadow Bolt volley. They can Arcane Explosion, just kill them. Here is a Plague Gargoyle. These guys are kind of annoying, and they can be scary if you get more than 3. 2 is not terrible. So you just saw it right there, and you can see his debuff up here. They throw out a physical debuff on everybody. And that debuff is going to do it's like an AoE poison bolt. It stacks, it is not dispellable, and you cannot line of sight it. Why it's scary is that every time it stacks, each level of the stack is a 130 to 150 tick. So at 2 stacks, 3 stacks, even 4, it's nothing that Chain Heals going burr can't deal with. But the longer it stacks, the higher it goes, and you're getting into the thousands, it gets scary. You're gonna say to me, "But Kev, we're just gonna blow these guys down, right? Like they're never gonna get that high." Here's where they get scary. When they get down, and you have to single target one at a time. When they get below 35%, you're gonna see this one right here. It emotes too in the game. It says like it makes a awkward screech or something to that effect, emits a strange sound. The gargoyle is going to go into a stone skin form. If you do not kill it within 6 seconds, it heals to full. And your debuffs that are from it last for 30 seconds. So that debuff will never drop off before it's throwing it out because it's casting that every couple seconds. So you can see here when that drops, everyone's just killing Skull. And now everyone switches over to X. These are not the cleave fights. If you're speed run, crazy sweat, guys, they're going to cleave them down because they have ungodly DPS and they're going to stack warriors. But for us, that's not the case. And here they actually got a little bit cheeky because they pulled the next 2 and they actually still had 3 ticks of their debuffs running. So this is really trusting yourselves that 1, you either get lucky with RNG, which they didn't because now it went up to 5, that it'll fall off, or that your DPS plus healers are good enough. But these guys are a bit scary. We're going to see them in Plague Wing, but like I said, these outer rings are a mix of trash, so we will see them here on our way to Makesina too. We just have to make sure that we're absolutely berserking those single target down.
Did you see that
Um,
too, Shal?
They all
Once-
switch to defensive stance so
Yep.
that they don't die as hard. So that's the same thing as Viscidus, right? Once you guys are not in range, and here they're all eating too, because healers are close to They're trying to just heal whatever they can with that debuff. It does get scary once it gets above 4 or 5. That's when it's going to start ticking for a shit ton.
I've got a question about those
Yep.
shade trash mobs. You
Yep.
said they do the shadow bolt volley, right? That hits
Correct. Everybody, but it
yeah,
can't be line of sighted.
within 30 yards, you said?
Yeah, anyone that's within 30 yards can hit it. So in
Would it-
theory, you can kind of outrange it to an extent. Like
Yeah,
you're a mage, right? You have like 40 yards on your
40
fireball, right?
yeah, 41. That's what I was getting. I was like, would it be it'd probably be less damage taken by ranged if they just stood at max range, I think.
Yeah. So range is definitely going to want to try to stay as much at max range as possible. Sometimes, excuse me, when you have that pull though, right? Like you can saw there, those plague ghouls are really close. So they kind of had to, take it back, and you're kind of just pulling it back as much as you can. It's not a scary amount of damage. It is line of sightable and it is outrangeable, so you should be okay. Like you said, just to pew pew from as far away as possible. But either way, just still got everyone, be aware of what those mechanics are. Okay, let me get back to my Spiderwing notes. Okay. Should be it. I think that's actually the last of the trash on the way to Makesina. There might be more skitterers or something like that along the way. There's a lot of like those pats through the spider area where they're just kind of nuking them down.
Now on the trash on the outer rings, it's a mixture of trash, but
Correct. Yeah.
is it possible for it to be like kind of how you guys fish the Mind Slayers and AQ? Is there a way like you could
As far as I
fish
know,
less stressful trash?
no. These are all the mobs as they would be as you go through the section. Like that, these are the spawns. I don't think there's any type of randomly generated spawns. We could see. But from everything I've read from the PTR plus seen from these retail private servers, they are matching 1-to-1.
Gotcha.
So that's what we should see. So once again, they're pulling 2 acolytes here. Shadow Ball Volley, Arcane Explosion. They're the love child of Fairlena's trash. And as you can see here too, Warlocks, you can throw up a Curse of Tongues to try to help the gang out because they are interruptible, so that you don't get those Arcane Explosions and the Shadow Ball Volleys. But they melt. You know, they're casters. Once again, here's another group of ghouls, another shade. We'll skip ahead a little bit here because I also know it's getting a little bit later, so I don't want to keep everybody here. Get to Mason now because all this trash is exactly the same. So we go up the spider web, and if you are afraid of spiders, this is a big spider.
Ugh.
So she is by far the hardest aspect of the Spiderwing. Um, for final bosses of the 4 wings, I'd say she's probably technically the easiest, but she is got some difficulties to her. So first things first, you'll as they're getting here, she doesn't have a ton of health. It's only 1.5 million. She has a massive hitbox because she's huge. So melee, you don't need to like get all up on top of her. You're going to be able to hit her just like with dragons and Cthulhu from further away than you think. The big thing with her is that when you go into this, if you want to, I don't think he did here, but you can pop greater nature protection potions. Everything she does that's of her special damage ability is nature, so it's not a bad idea. So when you come into the room, you'll see here everyone's kind of positioned over here using the circle on the map, the mini map. Look at the mini map, not their view. They're all over here positioned on the west side of the room, and you're going to see that the tank actually is going to reposition the boss. So comes in, pulls them over, get them over, and then they're going to flip her around right here. So she starts further over here at like the 2 o'clock position. So the tank's going to come in and drag her straight across to the 10 o'clock position. Then the tank is going to flip her around, and then Cookie, you'll basically be staring at her from. You'll be standing in line with the 12 o'clock position, but you'll be facing her, right? If that makes sense. You can kind of see there on the mini map.
My back is pointing at 12.
Correct. Your back's pointing at 12. So you're gonna. Oh, I put the sound on. It's on mute. So you saw here really quick. I don't know if you missed it, but at the start she has an ability that will go out called cocoons, and these go out about 15 seconds from the pull to 20 seconds. And what they do is they randomly pick a handful of people in the raid, and they get thrown against the back wall. That's why we turn her this way, because they get thrown back across this western wall, basically that 7 through 11 o'clock positions. And when this happens, you're going to be thrown against the wall, and you can't do anything. So it'll be 20 seconds in, and then after that, it's every 40 seconds. You're going to be stuck on the wall. You're going to be wiggling and moving. You can't use PvP trinket. You can't use FAP. You can't do petrification flask. Nothing to get out of it. The only way to be saved is that ranged DPS need to turn around and free you by killing the Rap. The Raps only have about 6,000 health, so it's nothing scary. And when you're inside, though, you're going to take some damage. It's all nature damage. So this is where the potion could be useful. You get freed, you come back to the raid, you get topped off, you go back to doing your thing. That's the first of her mechanics. Her second mechanic is thing called Poison Shock, and this is why Cookie faces her away, and nobody should be on the front of the boss. Everyone should be on her butt. Poison Shock is a frontal cleave cone that deals 1,750 nature damage, and she's going to cast it about every 10 to 15 seconds. Cookie will heal him through. He's going to be layered in heals, but he doesn't care. If you're somebody else, though, you won't be taking that. That's a nasty-ass cleave. Her third mechanic is Necrotic Poison. So for Midnight, if he's still here, and if not, we'll make sure he has it, as well as the any shaman. Necrotic Poison is Veil of Shadows on steroids, but it's a poison, so it can be dispelled by you guys. When it's on the target, it reduces all healing taken by 90%. it's essentially a full censure on healing. It just nothing's going to matter. Why this is a big deal is because even on Cookie, when she lands a melee hit, she's going to hit him for between 1.5 to 2k on her autos. And she attacks every 2 seconds. She has a faster boss attack speed. So that needs to get cleansed immediately. Immediately. And then her last mechanic is called Spiderlings. Every 30 seconds, or sorry, 30 seconds of the fight, and then every 40 after, she spawns baby spiders. These are AoE cannon fodder, and they're going to spawn right underneath her tail. So when that call is out there, mages and everyone move in, and it's Sapper, Blast Wave, AoE, Arcane Explosion, Cone of Cold, blow them up. They have to die as soon as possible. The reason is because of her signature ability, which is Web Wrap. Every 40 seconds, she's going to cast this out on the entire
Web
raid.
spray.
Web spray, Web Wrap. Thank you, Bebop. It will stun the entire raid for 10 seconds. Everybody will take about 1750 to 2250 damage, and you cannot move, you cannot cast, and you cannot get rid of it. This is a problem because the tank cannot be healed, and he cannot do anything while he's stunned to help himself. So, healers, when that's about to go out, and we'll have very specific assignments, one priest will pre-shield Cookie as close to that call as possible. I know I have 8 of 8 tier 2, so I will bring that for this fight. I will cast the biggest greater heal I can while wearing that, so it puts on a mini renew. Another priest will cast renew. All the shamans, if you have anything available, like a big heal, top them off because you're not chain healing on this fight. There's no chain healing except for the spider parts and or when the melee come back off the wall. You're saturating the tank with heals. He's the only one taking damage. Everyone tops him off, and then that goes out, and then you pray. If we all do it right and we load them up with as many hots as possible, so that's rejuve and regrowth too. So midnight, you put the rejuve on first and then regrowth after. It should heal Cookie through it. We also have to have an abolish poison running on him. We need to have a poison cleansing totem because she can still put necrotic poison out while he's stunned. And then all of our hots do nothing. If we're really good, she should only do 2, maybe 3 of these. So what we'll have to make sure is that when we go into it where there could be a third, we have to be mindful of her health. When she falls below 30%, she does an enrage. And her enrage is nasty. She's going to attack 50% faster. So that's every 1 second. It's going to increase her damage by 100%. So she's going to hit Cookie between 2.5 to 3.5k a hit. And it's likely that that will be enraged while she's got a web spray out. So when that happens, Cookie, you're going to use Last Stand if you got it, Life Giving Gem if you got it, and probably if you've been waiting for it, this is Shield Wall. And that's the
my
next
thought.
one where we pray and we have as many hots on you as possible. If you can get through that and we get through the other side, we're done. We'll win, no problem. But if you die during that, things are going to get scary. So that's really where those baby spiders, why I was saying they have to die as soon as possible. Because if we all get web trapped, there's 10 baby spiders going around just hitting whoever they want. Likely healers
Probably
because of
the
healer
healers.
aggro. So those need to be nuked down as soon as possible. So there's a lot of info. Let's watch the fight here, and you can see it and ask questions as we go. So pay attention if you. Oh shit! I just missed it. You see here real quick on the pool. Watch the cocoons. The left and right side. You're just going to see 2 people go yeet and disappear. Boop, there they go. So now they're on the back wall. So he's melee, so you don't really see it. So he's just zug-zugging away. But there's people here, and they're pinging on the wall so that range know where they are. Here come the spiders. You can see all the sappers going out from melee. Back to boss. And now everybody's stunned. You can see the entire raid is stunned, and she's hitting the boss. I'm sorry, hitting the tank. But they have him loaded up with hots, so he actually only dropped to half. That's pretty good. Top him back off. So shamans, if you have nature swiftness and or druid, you save your nature swiftness to instantly get the tank back up after the stun. My suggestion will be is that we'll have specific assignments for that. We don't want all of you blowing your nature swiftness to heal Cookie for 20,000 when he only needs 5. You know, one of you can do it, and the rest of us will top him off. And here comes the next web spray. and she is enraged. So real quick, you can see here, Prowls, their main tank, actually puts out here that he used his shield wall. Here he is on the target. Just pay attention to his health bar. He is currently at full health. Gets the Necrotic Poison. It's not cleansed because nothing was running, and he's dead. That was with shield wall. Now they're just in oh shit mode of all the warriors are hitting defensive stance and putting on shields, and you can see she is just murking people. They do kill her, but she killed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people before she died while enraged. So it is scary, and even with your main tank shield walling and being topped off, if that abolished poison's not running, or she gets lucky with her hits, because Cookie can't shield block, so he can take crushing blows, you can get yourself instantly chunked. Sounds really
They
scary. I'm not.
rewinded a little bit, Shal.
Yep.
One thing I just wanted
They
to
had
say.
a web wrap on the wall and they freed it at the end
Yeah, that
after
was
the
at the
spider
very end.
died. You can take a look at what it looks like.
Because
Oh,
that's going to happen like right after the web spray. Like what he was talking about with all those timers, how it was like 20 seconds for the first, then 40 after that, then 30 seconds for the first 40. It's basically just to set it up that every 40 seconds in this fight, you're going to do the same rotation. It's going to be web wraps, deal with them. The Spiderlings, deal with them, then web spray. Then it's going to go back to web wrap, deal with that. The Spiderlings, deal with that. Web
Correct.
spray. It's just going to rotate through that 3.
Yep. But once again, she's a very straightforward fight. Only one person is really taking damage when you're doing it correctly, besides a little bit off of the wall people and the spiderlings. But the main part is going to come down to coordination between the healers. It's actually a pretty big theme for Naxx is that healing assignments and healing. You can't be looking to snipe healing. You can't be wasting healing. You have to stick to your assignments. And you need to follow through with them. So, like on this first web wrap, you can see here, I'm sorry, web spray, they did a really good job of Prowse getting him hotted up. They had the poison cleanse rolling, everything. He stayed topped off. He dropped to half. But even when they got here, and these are people that are in like really big names that have played the shit out of WoW Classic or versions of it, even here with their main tank popping a shield wall for web spray and everything, they didn't have the abolished poison running. And it might not even matter because HOTS can only do so much when your tank goes from here full. Now he's losing a little bit, losing a little bit.
That was also
75% gone.
the worst timing ever. They pushed her to enrage like right as the web spray was going to happen.
Exactly. So that's why I was saying is for us, we're going to err on the side of caution where it's 30%. She's going to enrage at 30%. If she's at 35 and we see that web spray is going to happen in 7 seconds, the call is going to be no DPS. Let her web spray. We put up all the hots, and then when we get to the other side of it, we know we have 30 seconds to nuke her during enrage. It's much easier for Cookie to not die during enrage if he can shield block, if he can life giving gem, if he can last stand and save shield wall for oh shit, than having to basically pray to the gods that shield wall plus hots will save him.
Yeah, and the other thing too is like you're not doing anything during web spray. So if you push her to enrage and Tiny has to blow all of his cooldowns to get through the web spray during enrage at 29%, we now have to do that 29% in the next like 30 seconds or we're screwed because there's no cooldowns left. Shield wall's down, everything's down. Like if you do it where you get a full like 30, 40 seconds to DPS her, then have to survive that one web sprayed where you can pop all your cooldowns. And on the other side of it, you got another 30, 40 seconds. You're definitely going to be able to have enough time to get through that enrage without having to do 2 web sprays during enrage, because 2 web sprays during enrage is just a loss.
Yeah, it's basically a wipe. We have to playing around in rage is you have to kill her essentially within 3 web sprays. If you're doing steady DPS, 'cause like I said, she doesn't have a ton of health. It's about 1.5. So it's not a significant amount of health. It's just a matter of playing around those web sprays and making sure that healers are on point and that DPS doesn't push her into enrage when a web spray is imminent. That's just a terrible, terrible idea there. But basically, that'll be the keys to that fight. And she has really, really, really good loot. Like I was saying, Kiss of the Spider, Wrathblade, all that shit drops off of her. So for me, this is my goal for night one minimum. I'd love to clear through the Spiderwing. I think we have it in us to go after in the Plague Wing as well. I have a lot of faith in this group, but these are the three that I really want to get through night one. Does anybody have any questions overall? They want to go back through, see anything here from the video again? Now's your time. We'll open the floor before we kind of call a night for everybody.
I think you did a good job of explaining it, but just got to see it now,
Sure, and I do know that's the hardest part, right? Is actually being able to see it. You can talk to your blue in the face, um, but it doesn't matter till you actually see it. But does anybody like anything? This is please, like I said, I've spent an ungodly amount of hours studying this shit and writing notes about it. So I want to share that information with you guys if I can.
That's what I was gonna say. You need to share your notes.
I'll send you my notes if you want, Bebop.
I'll just as a little like pep talk to anyone that's played a little bit of retail with me recently. This doesn't hold a candle to that fight we did this week, so I think we can do this easily.
Yeah, I was gonna say like regarding that, the way everybody like reacted and like all those people. I have same with everybody else. I have this huge amount of faith in everybody. The whether retail or classic, just this group is amazing.
Yeah, we carry it pretty hard.
Say the only thing to be cautioned about that though is while retail has so many more messed up mechanics to deal with, in classic it's a numbers game. I mean, there's some stuff here that just the margin for error is so slim just looking at the numbers.
That's what I would say too, because retail is like they're a little more forgiving if you like fuck up a mechanic here and there, but classic was like, here are your mechanics. If you fuck this up, you're gonna fucking wipe. So
You will die.
it's a lot more precision. Mhm.
Yeah, I mean the easiest one is just to go back to this is they have here and their main tank dies literally as web spray is about to end when he gets murked here, and I mean she's at 8%. What's when she dies? How quick was it? She's at 29, 28, and then they get web sprayed, so she's stuck at 25. So she's at 25% when their main tank dies, and she murks 8 people. And like just I mean you can see here, like look, these guys are like gone. This guy's like, oh please heal me, I'm popping defensive cooldowns, gone. Like this guy comes in here, he's got Death Wish running, so he's big dead. That guy's dead, because all the warriors are trying to get ready for execute range. um that's what Bebop was saying, is if the main tank's gone or she's not dead afterwards, it's guaranteed a wipe, because there's no way you're going to live through another web spray. She's just going to eat the whole raid. So
yeah. And one thing is though, is right, like you said, there's no world buffs and stuff like that on this particular clip and stuff. Not saying that that's going to be like a, like we're guaranteed to have it by this boss, but
yeah.
If we wipe or whatever, expect this level of difficulty. So we just got to
Yeah.
really focus up.
So when we go in Naxx, we're really gonna at this point in time. I know world buffs, people, it is annoying. It's tough to sometimes plan around it. It's definitely. I'm not gonna say it's required to have them, but like, please, please get the buffs you can. It's such a huge advantage to increase the margin for error. And as you can see here on some of the stuff, it hits hard. It slaps. The more health you have, the easier it is to heal you. The less quick you die. And the biggest one for Naxx is, if you haven't seen so far, it is a consumable driven raid. Blizzard designed it as the final tier of Classic. It's the closest patch to what we're running. We're on 1.12. This was 1.10, 1.11, I believe. So it's as close to the game as possible. So the itemizations, the talent specializations, everything that we've enjoyed at this point that made Molten Core a face roll is now where Naxx was designed to basically match up against. This is the closest to the curve we've been. So if you're holding on to stuff, this is the time to use it. Don't don't buy cheap potions. Don't buy cheap food. This is when we need everybody operating at maximum capacity. And like I said, if you're not using a good profession right now for anything that's worthwhile, get engineering. We have money in the guild bank. People like me, others that will help you get up to 205. Let's get some sappers in the raid. it just helps. You know, I mean, you saw there those spiders popped that first wave. They just nuked them via the melee, and they're not even running a crazy heavy melee comp. They still have 5 mages. They have a handful of warlocks, all the casters, and that's just from the melee group just nuking it all down. So those kind of things will help give us a lot more of an edge than just trying to just like, oh, well, you know what? I'm not going to use potions and stuff here tonight. And it's like, well, if everybody does that, then we're all lowering our own chances of success. So this is the time to buy in.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean use your consumables like a bunch of jabronis, right? Like
No.
if you die during the spider packs, right? Don't pop your potions until we get to the boss room.
Yes.
Like don't waste it.
Don't waste your shit, but also too don't pull the 10-year-old me in Final Fantasy VII where I ended up with like 50 Phoenix Downs on the final boss, and I'm like, well, good thing I saved them all now because I never used them along the way. Like, use your shit.
I mean, for
Yeah,
trash, it's really probably like lips would be the most important thing to keep around, just in case like you get aggro on something.
Yeah, lips are good, and then like I said, for a lot of stuff here from Spiderwing with all the webbing and stuff, you know, FAPs are a huge one to help give you a lot of extra protection from some of those mechanics. So
Yeah, we gotta get
that's
fabs.
that's the Spiderwing. When we finish wings, you can't see it here. There's was a glitch on private servers, but he has to reload his UI. But there's portals, little like clickable portals that spawn in the final boss rooms that take you back to the center of Naxx to
Beginning.
go to another wing.
Cool.
But that's what we'll do, and Spider will be where we focus on. So that's Spiderwing. We're gonna do Plague Wing. If I can, I'll probably do another one of these with Plague Wing over the weekend, and then next week I'll try to do, if I can, another one for Construct Wing before the holiday, and then I'll save Death Knight for after the holiday going into December, because Death Knight will probably be the last one that we do, and it is with 4 horsemen the most complex one.
What? You're gonna make me wait for my corrupted Ashbringer? Come on, dude.
You
Should
want
we
to
go in there
see?
first?
Yeah, okay, hang on. Well, if you're still in here in my stream, let's oh, there's Saffron murking people because he is tough.
I
Let's go back.
got to run though.
Hey,
See,
buddy.
Yeah, typical.
Oh, they did Horseman early. That's right.
Yeah, right. See, there you go.
I think they
Feel like
actually
them.
started with Horseman. Yeah, they're in
Yeah,
Death
see?
Knight.
We should be starting with Horseman.
These guys here were this was on the private server. They were going for server first, and they actually got it. But it was hilarious as they said, as this guild literally ran this one night together, and that was it. They're like, all right, we did it, we're done, and they never never ran anything again. They all quit.
Dude, right there. If we get server first on ours, I would say we gotta quit too.
Yeah, but here's their horseman here. It's a long fight. Like I think this kill for them is like 15 minutes, and they actually even do a cheeky version with it where we won't do it, but they do a 3 DPS rotation instead of 2. So they actually switch the order. They take Blamo to the right and Zeliek to the left, and it's because they have the melee come in and actually start and do Blamo into safe zone, into Thane, into Mograine, into Blamo, into safe zone. Instead of we'll do the more traditional way, which is starters on Thane, starters on Mograine, safe zone is the relief squad. Relief squads go in. Those guys stay. Nobody touches Zeliek or Blamo except for the tank swapping in and out, and then we keep rotating between Thane and Mograine until they die. But these guys do a pretty cheeky version where they're going between the 3 of them to try to get Blamo down quicker. But we'll get there. This fight is there's a lot going on this fight.
It's wild.
This one is the one that comes down to this and Thaddeus are the one where one person not doing their job right is a wipe. And that's kind of scary, to be honest with you, but I think we can do it. So, is that Perlo I just heard?
Yeah. Hello.
Look who just joined us.
No, I was here like 10 minutes ago.
Wasn't here for that tier.
Wasn't here for that tier.
No, fuck off.
How was dinner, Perlu?
That was bad now. Everything's bad now.
How was your mom and dad dinner?
And my mom and dad, fine. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Faye.
But his
All
dinner
right.
was terrible.
Ribbers, I'm going to end the stream here just so you know. Thanks for recording.
No problem.
And yeah, I guess whatever way